welcome to Let's Collaborate, a podcast from the Southwest Doctoral Training Partnership. I'm your host, Chris Garrington, and joining me for this episode, recorded at the Collaboration and Connectivity Conference, is Rachael Pryor, who's researching the education of children in care and their transition, their move from primary school to secondary school. And Rachael is based at the west of England. So Rachael, first and foremost, tell us a bit about your research.
One of my substantive roles is I'm the virtual school head for children in care, so I have an overarching interest in the education of children in care and responsibility for promoting a good education for those children and young people. And transition for children in care can be particularly interesting. I won't say challenging, because sometimes children in care make the transition very well and they have to make a lot of transitions in their lives, but particularly interested in it as a point in their education where things change for them and how they manage that and how that is handled. And I was looking at it very much from the perspective of the child themselves, so what they had to say about it. So in terms of being emancipatory for them, to give them a voice, because so many times for children in care, they haven't had agency over things that have happened in their life. So it was a kind of approach to try and give them an opportunity to have their say.
So that leads me nicely on to my next question, which is about how you're going about that. And presumably you're doing interviews, you're talking with people, you're doing qualitative interviews. Is that the approach?
I'm trying to call them structured conversations, although I have occasionally slipped into using the word interviews. And that came very sharply into focus when you think about children's perceptions of the word interview and what it means and what it might mean to them. So I've tried to call them structured conversations, but yes, having structured conversations with participants. So I've got 6 children who are in the care system who agreed to talk to me. I first met them with their carer and had a conversation with their carer and them together, and then asked them if they would be happy to show me around their school, their new secondary school, and to talk about how they'd experienced, what they liked about school, the areas that they felt most comfortable in. And then we collaborated on a piece of artwork or a mind map to kind of record the conversation so that they had a record of the conversation as well.
Oh, fascinating. And I wonder, what new insights you hope that your PhD will provide, and, how you hope, obviously one does research to try to make a difference, right? So how you hope those insights might benefit people in the future, and particularly those children who go through the care system, right?
Absolutely. And I think, first of all, it was the professional interest. Are we supporting children in the right way through transition? What do they need? What are their own perspectives? Because there's been very little research into this area around that's qualitative, that is very much focused on what young people have to say. So I felt that was a little bit lacking in some of the research around education of children in care, and wanted to focus very much on their voice and what they had to say. So I'm just about to do my thematic analysis of that, and I gathered data by talking to not just the child, but their social worker, their carer and their teachers, to put a little bit of meat on the bones in terms of their observations of how the child had experienced transition as well. So involving those other stakeholders / gatekeepers in the process as well.
And presumably hope that will feed through in some way to those who have responsibility for those children, getting as good an experience of education as their peers who are not in care.
Absolutely. And there are some real positives, and I think I tried to use a little bit of appreciative inquiry methodology as well, in terms of looking at what had been done well, because what I didn't want to perceive that it was in any way challenging the individuals within the system, the carers, the teachers, but more about thinking structurally about what we could do well, and what we could do better.
Now, PhD can be a long, hard road. I know that. It's a lot of work. And I wonder if there's any advice that you would give based on your experience of, just the whole process of going through a PhD, but obviously looking at the particular topic that you've chosen to do.
Well, mine's a professional doctorate, so
yes.
I've done it alongside, until very recently, done it alongside my day job, which has meant it's been a very long and protracted process. But I think what I would give advice to somebody embarking on a piece of work where you're using qualitative data of this this type would be to be really, really clear about your methodology and your research paradigm before you start, because I embarked on it before I had that completely sort of sorted in my mind, then it's meant a lot of going back and revisiting and kind of wishing I'd asked a question in a certain way, or wishing I'd kind of taken things in a certain direction. So I think having your research paradigm and your methods and your methodology really clear in your head before you start, I sort of did mine alongside, and I think I would have better investing some time in that in the early stages of my PhD.
No,
professional doctorate.
Absolutely. No, really, really good advice, Rachel. Thank you very much. So thanks for listening to this episode of Let's Collaborate from the South West Doctoral Training Partnership. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast to access earlier and new episodes.